Fiat offers buyers in the small SUV segment an improved version of its characterful 500X crossover model. It's bigger than it looks, and there's now a sophisticated range of more efficient 3- and 4-cylinder petrol turbo engines on offer, plus improved connectivity and a whole stack of personalisation options. If you're searching for a car of this kind and looking for a surefire conversation starter, you can't do a lot better.
If you like the trendy little Fiat 500 city car but need something just as characterful but rather larger, the Italian brand gives you options. One of them is this 500X small SUV, originally launched in 2015 but tested here in the much improved form the brand brought us late in 2018. It's easy to see what the Italian brand is trying to do here. Just as BMW broadened the appeal of its modern-day Mini by spinning from it a whole range of more versatile body styles, Fiat has done much the same sort of thing with its iconic little 500 model, using the same design DNA, first to bring us the 500L small MPV in 2012, and then this 500X SUV crossover 3 years later. You won't be surprised to learn that this X model has been by far the more successful of the pair, shifting almost 1.5 million units since launch. That's partly because of the recent sales boom in the SUV segment, and partly because aesthetically most agree it to be a considerably more appealing interpretation of what a larger 500 should be. Not quite appealing enough, though, to prevent sales rather stalling. 2 years into its production run, just 5,000 500Xs were sold in our market in 2017, as other brands piled into this part of the crossover class. So Fiat's had a rethink and come back with the much improved car we're going to test here. As before, it shares just about all its engineering with its FCA group cousin, the Jeep Renegade, but quite a lot else has changed. This time round, the Italian brand wisely isn't bothering with a few of the key engineering elements that most buyers decided they could do without on the original version of this model. Things like diesel engines, automatic transmission and four-wheel drive. Instead, the whole range now has a feel much more relevant to the kind of car people now want in the rapidly evolving segment for super mini-based SUVs. The most important thing Fiat had to deal with was the original design's rather outdated petrol engine lineup, hence the need for the completely new 1 litre and 1.3 litre petrol Firefly series power plants fitted to this revised model. As you might expect, this midterm update has also brought a smartening of the looks, a few extra cabin tweaks and welcome upgrades to both safety and media connectivity. Does it all add up? Well, we're going to find out. Much was new about the design of this 500X at its original launch back in 2015, except beneath the bonnet, where buyers were served up engine technology, most of which was essentially the best part of a decade old. No prizes then for guessing where the bulk of the development budget for this revised model went. Virtually all rival small SUVs now offer some kind of small, downsized entry-level 3-cylinder turbo petrol power plant. So the 500X now has one too, the 3-cylinder 1 litre unit we're trying here that puts out 120 horsepower. This Firefly series engine shares much of its modular design with the other new unit offered to buyers of this Fiat, a 4-cylinder 1.3 litre 150 horsepower option. Unfortunately though, the least expensive urban variant continues with the old tech 4 litre 110 horsepower 1.6 litre e-torque petrol unit from the original version of this car. What else? Well, diesel power's been dumped and everything's now front-driven. 500X buyers, it turned out, had little appetite for four-wheel drive, so that's been deleted as an option for our market, which unfortunately means we also lose the original model's drive mood selector driving mode system, which allows you to tweak steering and throttle response. The old 9-speed auto gearbox option's been consigned to history too, though that's been replaced with a much more efficient 6-speed dual-clutch DCT auto box. Unfortunately, you have to have that self-selector with the 1.3 litre model, which gives the car a rather lethargic feel. With a 500X 1.3 turbo model, 62 miles an hour theoretically occupies 9.1 seconds en route to 124 miles an hour, but in actuality this variant feels far less energetic than our test car's little 1-litre turbo unit. We liked this tiny power plant when we tried it recently in the FCA Fiat Group's other representative in this sector, the Jeep Renegade, a model that shares virtually all its engineering with this one. The engine's equally as good here and thrums its way merrily to 62 miles an hour in 10.9 seconds en route to 117 miles an hour. On the face of things, these figures don't look very much different from those of the base old-tech 1.6-litre 4-cylinder e-torque normally aspirated unit. The figures there are 11.5 seconds and 112 miles an hour. On the road, though, there's a huge difference between the two power plants. The little Firefly series engine's turbo delivering a welcome extra boost of forward energy just when you need it. Apart from the engaging character of the spirited little lump below the bonnet, not much has changed about the way this 500X goes down the road. The ride's still slightly on the firm side, especially on this top model's large 18-inch wheels, but that means well-managed standard of body roll through the bends, which in turn ought to give you the confidence to explore the decent reserves of traction and agility on offer. In the event, this is slightly undermined by rather lifeless electric steering, though the ease with which you can flick from lock to lock is obviously a boon when parking. At a cruise, once the Firefly's technology stopped buzzing about, this really is an impressively quiet contender by small SUV class standards, making this 500X one of the few contenders in the segment you'd be happy to accompany on a really long trip. Overall, this 1-litre model's real-world refinement is much better than you get in the pricier, more powerful 1.3 because you're not constantly having to thrash it about so much to maintain meaningful forward motion. This 999cc Firefly engine has just 190 newton meters of torque, though, which means that you're going to be flicking through the manual gearbox 6 ratios quite a lot. With the 1.3-litre engine, that figure rises to 270 newton meters, hence a rise in the brake to towing capacity from 1 to 1.2 tonnes. Despite the adventurous promise of the crossover class looks, off-road antics are of course beyond this 500X model's remit. Thanks to just 162mm of ground clearance, it wouldn't really be much more capable on a forest track than its diminutive 500 city car showroom stablemate, which for them it'll matter only that this is a faithful interpretation of 500 model line values to a larger family class car. A more faithful interpretation indeed in this revised form, a guise in which the 500X feels to be a more relevant expression of what a city crossover should be. It's been rather overlooked in its segment in recent times. Now, it doesn't deserve to be. There aren't too many small SUVs with styling that gets an almost universal vote of confidence, but we really haven't chanced upon anyone who doesn't like the 500X. Designed in-house by Fiat's Centro Stile studio, this model not only has clear links to its siblings in the current 500 family, but also to the iconic 1957 original, most notably when it comes to these large circular headlamps, the bright work on the nose, and this distinctive clamshell bonnet. There's a restrained entry-level urban version, but go for a mid-range City Cross variant or a top Cross Plus model like this one, and you'll get the usual crossover cues. Things like skid plates front and rear, and on this Cross Plus model, subtle roof rails too. In short, all the calling cards you'd expect to find from a vehicle of the Duke genre. And if all you actually want here is a more spacious, versatile Fiat 500, well, you get that too, something this 500X delivers with the style and assurance that its 500L MPV stablemate so notably failed to provide. That model's flatter window line and roof profile robbed it of the cute, curvy profile that so endeared buyers to the 500 in its 3-door city car guise. Here, though, both those things are present and correct, and the result is a shape that many will love. As for the changes made to this revised 500X, well, they've mainly been about creating more of a visual family connection between this car and the 500 city runabout that Fiat hopes many potential buyers will be graduating to it from. These uniquely illuminated mid-level daytime running lights are, for example, borrowed from the most recently improved version of that smaller car. Most of the family resemblance, though, is tied up in what the brand calls a moustache and badge combo, which they hope you'll see in the way that this chrome strip and the upper grille just beneath it sit between two main headlights that can now be ordered with the full LED beams we've got here. The effect of all this is a bit more prominent now that the designers have given the lower frontal area a bit more emphasis, courtesy of a revised front bumper. The ordinary urban variant gets it incorporated with a conventional lower grille, but for the SUV-styled cross versions, there's a more aggressive silvered skid plate style arrangement. As with the 500X itself, it's something you'll either like a lot or not at all. In profile, you realise the cleverness of a shape that's a good deal bigger than it looks. The curvy styling disguising dimensions that make this 500X one of the larger small SUVs you can buy. To give you some size perspective, it's fully 134mm longer than a Nissan Juke and 147mm longer than a Renault Captur. That's partly because this car sits on the underpinnings that the FCA Fiat Group also uses for its Jeep Renegade model, a small SUV that hopes to be just about large enough to tempt buyers who might conceivably also be looking at more affordable Qashqai class SUVs in the mid-size class above. Both the Renegade and the 500X, incidentally, roll down the same FCA production line at Fiat's Italian Melfi plant near Potenza, and all the X models get the black plastic wheel arches, shrouding alloy wheels between 16 and 18 inches in size. We've got 18 inches here. We think the rear section of the car works particularly well with its large, characterful light clusters, restrained brightwork and sloping roofline. It's the part of the car that just looks wrong on a 500L, though to be fair, that car's boxiness is necessary to satisfy its compact MPV status. Freed from that expectation, this model can properly mimic the curviness of its original city stablemate, so it's appropriate that the new LED rear light clusters now more closely replicate the most recent version of that car with their trendy body-coloured centre sections. Cross versions get this silvered lower skid plate too. Seat yourself at the wheel and it doesn't initially feel very Fiat 500, which is perhaps why the Italian brand feels the need to scatter the front of the cabin with badged references to that model. What's delivered here is as different from that little city car as you'd expect it would be, this being a larger and more expensive design. It's slightly more of a surprise, though, to find how different the cabin is from that 500L 5-door MPV we were just talking about. The stylists started again from scratch here, as they did with the exterior looks, and the interior is all the better for it. So nearly all the switchgear and instrumentation is specific to the 500X. These chunky circular ventilation dials that sit above the SD card and USB connectivity slots look particularly smart. Some semblance of familiarity is maintained by a smattering of 500 model line design cues, things like the quirky metal effect door handles, the hard round head restraints and the Boyle Sweet-like buttons. This model branded body-coloured plastic dashboard facing is a familiar touch too. This panel surrounds what's arguably the cabin's most important update, the enlargement of the centre dash Uconnect infotainment touchscreen to 7 inches in size. It was previously either 5 or 6.5 inches, depending on the trim level you chose. As with most systems of this kind, the Uconnect setup deals with stereo and informational functions and now delivers Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring functionality too. That'll give you access to navigation apps through your handset, but if you don't want to depend on that, you can have TomTom SatNav built into the Uconnect screen. It's a standard feature on this Cross Plus model. If you also download the available Uconnect Live app, you'll be able to get much more from this display. Use it to the full and you'll be able to keep up to date with Facebook and Twitter. Or get yourself traffic updates, speed camera alerts, weather information and news alerts from Reuters, along with a range of other downloadable apps. You might also want to select from millions of music tracks on Deezer, or choose from more than 100,000 radio stations with TuneIn. In short, with Uconnect, there are lots of possibilities. You activate all these features either via the touchscreen, by voice commands, or by getting to grips with the many and initially slightly confusing buttons on the restyled 3-spoke steering wheel, which now features a smart techno man-made leather stitched finish. Through this, you view a revised instrument cluster featuring 3 circular, individually cowled dials, with a speedometer, unfortunately only marked in 20 mph increments, and a rev counter flanking a large central configurable 3.5-inch TFT display, which can be set to provide everything from a digital speed readout to safety system and stereo information. The rather firmly sprung seat, complete with its embossed 500 branding that places you in front of all this, isn't particularly commanding in its positioning. You'll actually be sitting 45mm lower than you would be in this model's Jeep Renegade design stablemate. So, if being able to look over the hedgerows is a priority for you in buying a small SUV, you'll be disappointed by this one. Still, that'll make it easier to acclimatise if you're switching into this car from something more conventional. It's certainly easy to get comfortable. These scalloped out sections in the front part of the ceiling mean that headroom is generous despite the curved roof. In addition, there's plenty of reach and rake adjustment on the steering wheel and a wide range of seat adjustability too, though it's quite hard to get the backrest exactly as you want it because you adjust it by using a lever and leaning back rather than with a more accurate rotary dial. Almost all 500X buyers add in the optional comfort pack we've got here, which gives you driver's seat lumbar support and a central armrest. And many owners go on to create a very personal and even quite exclusive feel with a careful choice from the huge range of fabric, leather and trim panel colour configurations possible. What else? Well, forward visibility's not bad, though the thick front A-pillars occasionally get in the way of your view at junctions. Rear visibility's not quite as good, due to the relatively small back screen and some over-the-shoulder C-pillar blind spots, so it's just as well that most models get standard rear parking sensors. As for build quality from the Melfi factory, well, at first glance it seems fine, though the rather wobbly fitment of these centre stack dials isn't a particularly encouraging sign of cabin longevity. There's plenty of cabin storage though. We particularly like this twin level glove box and the way that these central cup holders are positioned so that the cans or bottles they'll house won't get in the way of the gear stick. Fiat's forgotten to include an overhead compartment for your sunglasses or the option of under-seat drawers, but you get a deep lidded storage box between the seats and another spacious open stowage area in front of the gear lever with a 12-volt socket plus twin USBs and an aux-in socket just above. The doors have coin cubbies and lower down decently sized bins with holders that can take a 1 litre bottle. Plus, there are flaps on the inside of the sun visors for tickets and paperwork. Time to take a seat in the rear. Now the doors open wide to almost 90 degrees, making it straightforward for parents to reach in and strap down child seats and the like. Taller backseat folk won't have to duck down on entry to get their heads around the curving roofline, and this should be where you appreciate this model's slightly above average class length. It's actually a substantial 122mm lengthier than Fiat's 500L MPV, and also a fraction longer than its Jeep Renegade design stablemate. Let's see what kind of difference that makes. Once inside, there's certainly considerably more space than would be available to you in, say, a rival Nissan Juke, though sombre cabin colours like those that feature here rather disguise the fact. As usual in this class of car, room for your knees and legs is at a bit of a premium, and the seat base doesn't slide back and forth to improve it as it would, say, in a rival Renault Captur or Citroën C3 Aircross. Overall, the amount of room you get back here is pitched somewhere between the space you'd get in a Fiesta-sized Super Mini and a Focus-sized family hatch, which means it's fine by segment standards, though taller folk will find their hair brushing the ceiling. If it's necessary to carry 3 back here, it'll inevitably be rather tight, as is always the case with this class of car, but should that be necessary, you'll be glad of the low height of this centre transmission tunnel, above which you can pay extra to add the additional USB port that features here. If you've gone for that optional comfort pack, you'll get a 3rd rear headrest too. As for storage, well, it seems a little mean to only provide a seat back pocket on the left-hand side, but there are decently sized door bins that come complete with holders that can take a 500ml bottle. Raise the tailgate and you discover a 350 litre boot capacity. That's basically the same as you'd get in a Renegade, but 50 litres less than you'd get with a 500L. And it's even further behind square as small crossovers like Mini's Countryman and the Renault Capture. Still, this cargo area is a match in size for rivals like Nissan's Juke and Ford's EcoSport. And though the loading lip to reach it is quite high, it can be quite flexible if you opt for the extra cost Cargo Magic Space adjustable height boot platform we've got here. This can be set at two heights. The lower one obviously maximises boot space, while the higher one leaves the base of the boot level with loading lip for easier access. There are 4 tie-down points onto which an optional load net can be clipped, but there are no standard bag hooks, and Fiat doesn't offer a standard 12-volt port back here either. Below this branded mat at the base of the cargo floor, you get a further compartmentalised area, though only because Fiat declines to offer any sort of spare wheel as standard. If you add one in, your boot capacity will fall to just 245 litres, a figure that some tiny city cars can better. Push forward the fold and tumble 60/40 split folding rear bench and 1,000 litres of fresh air will be freed up, thanks to seat backs that fold almost completely flat. With the spare wheel, that figure falls to 910 litres. If your 500X, like this one, features the adjustable height boot platform we were just referring to, then if you place that Cargo Magic Space feature in its highest position, you'll get yourself a completely level loading area. Fiat's been trying to shift this 500X upmarket, and if you haven't already gathered that from the way the car now looks, you'll certainly get the idea from the way it's been priced. When we first tested this model in 2015, the sticker figures started at around £14,000, but 3 years on, by the time of the launch of this facelifted version, things had changed quite a lot. The Italian brand has retained the old 1.6 litre e-torque petrol power plant to power a price-leading urban spec version, but even that costs around £17,500 and won't be an especially relevant variant for the majority of 500X buyers who want the more powerfully efficient new Firefly series petrol engines. From launch, these were pitched in the £19,500 to £23,500 bracket, with buyers being offered 3 spec levels, which are, in order of price, a town-trendy City Cross option, the sporty S-design versions, or the more SUV-like Cross Plus model we have here. To go from City Cross to Cross Plus, you're looking at a £2,000 premium. Anyway, whichever of these 3 trim variants you go for, you'll be faced with 2 main engineering choices. Most will go for the 3-cylinder, 1-litre manual gearbox, 120 horsepower package we're trying today. But there's also a minority interest option for £2,200 more of a 1.3-litre 4-cylinder, 150 HP engine, mated non-negotiably to a 1.3-litre DCT automatic. What it all means for fans of this Italian brand is a 3-tiered Fiat 500 family. The original little 3-door city car sits in mainly the £12,000 to £15,000 bracket. The 500L small MPV is these days a £17,000 to £19,000 model. And this 500X sits in the £19,000 to £24,000 bracket. Something for everybody then. Which is something that could also be said of the small SUV segment in which this 500X must compete. It's probably not especially relevant to compare the pricing of this car against that of its Jeep Renegade development stablemate, as both models are aimed at rather different buyers, but we'll do it anyway though. The least expensive 1-litre 500X would cost about the same as a base-spec Renegade with the same Firefly series engine, but the Fiat would offer significantly more equipment for the money. A much bigger centre dash infotainment screen with smartphone mirroring, for instance, which you might feel is compensation for the slightly smaller cabin you get in a 500X. As ever, it comes down to your priorities and, of course, your preference as to the kind of aesthetic statement you want to make. And looking beyond Fiat Group products, well, Fiat's made no attempt here to price match the 500X in any way closely to base versions of the SUV B segment's 2 big hitters, the Renault Capture and the Nissan Juke. The Renault you might expect to be quite a lot cheaper. It can be up to £4,000 less than the 500X, since all its engines are 25 to 30 horsepower down on those fitted to this Fiat. With the Nissan, where the engines are more comparable, the difference is more like £2,000. A saving you might not want to make, given that the Duke is a significantly smaller car. What about the other products you could look at in the Super Mini-derived SUV B sector? Well, there's the bargain basement brand stuff that could potentially save you £4,000 to £5,000 on this Fiat. Cars like the Dacia Duster, the MG ZS or the SsangYong Tivoli. But with those three, you really get what you don't pay for. So it's more likely that in this class, you're going to be looking at core contenders like, say, Citroen's C3 Aircross, Ford's EcoSport, Hyundai's Kona, Kia's Stonic, Seat's Arona, Škoda's Kamiq or Suzuki's Vitara, all of them being little SUVs that could potentially save you around £2,000 over a 500X. Other key products in this sector are actually priced very similarly to this Fiat. Cars like Peugeot's 2008, Mazda's CX-3, Vauxhall's Crossland X, Mitsubishi's ASX and Suzuki's SX4 S-Cross. And you could easily pay £1,500 to £2,000 more than you'd have to find for this Fiat if you were to go for slightly more aspirational small SUVs like the Honda HR-V, Volkswagen's T-Cross or Audi's Q2. There's a lot to think about then, in carefully thinking through the marketing proposition on offer here. When all's said and done, though, we can see a small but reasonably significant group of buyers concluding that there really is nothing quite like a 500X. If you're one of those people, you're going to need to know just how generous the Italian brand has been with the standard spec. So time for the detail on that. Even entry-level urban models come with quite a lot. 16-inch alloy wheels, daytime running lights, electric mirrors, all-round power windows and some key camera-driven safety features we'll cover off in a moment. Inside, you get air conditioning, cruise control, Bluetooth phone connectivity, a height-adjustable driver's seat and a multifunction steering wheel stitched in man-made techno leather, via which you can control a decent quality 6-speaker DAB stereo. You have to pay extra for an alarm and a spare wheel, though. What about infotainment? So that supposedly has taken a useful step forward with this revised model. Sure enough, the Uconnect centre dash screen has grown slightly in size to 7 inches and is standard across the range. This is the portal through which you can activate a whole range of infotainment services, which now also include Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring. That'll give you access to all kinds of apps, but if you want to go further, download the Uconnect Live app and you'll be able to access internet radio, online music and Reuters News at the same time as keeping yourself connected through Facebook and Twitter. If you've decided on a 500X but want one of the newer technology engines or would merely like to treat yourself to something a bit nicer than urban level trim, then as we mentioned earlier, there are 3 further options. The first and most affordable of these is City Cross Spec, which, as we mentioned earlier, is a £2,000 step up from the base urban variant. Here you get a bit more pavement street cred, courtesy of larger 17-inch wheels, front anthracite coloured front and rear skid plates, fog lights, satin chrome inserts and body-coloured door mirrors. Plus, there are rear parking sensors, automatic climate control, a leather-wrapped gear knob and a 3.5-inch TFT monitor between the dials and the instrument binnacle. Your alternative mid-range option is sporty S-design trim, which adds to City Cross spec with full LED headlights, dark-tinted rear windows and inside a matte black dashboard fascia, plus seats trimmed in part techno leather. There's also a Myron black exterior theme for the standard roof bars, the boot lid inserts, the door handles, the front moulding and the unique 17-inch alloy wheels. If you're able to stretch to the very top of the range in this Cross Plus variant, you'll also get the full LED headlights, the roof bars and the dark-tinted rear windows, plus extra niceties include 18-inch wheels, auto headlamps, a rear parking camera, a front armrest and the addition of TomTom navigation to the Uconnect centre dash screen. OK, on to options, many of which, rather refreshingly, can be had even if you're only able to stretch to base urban spec trim. Your Fiat dealer will probably suggest that you start with one of the available extra cost packs, which group together key items at a 30% collated saving. You're almost certainly going to want the comfort pack we've got here, which gives you the so-called cargo magic space adjustable height boot platform, along with driver's seat lumbar support and front and rear floor mats. Plus, it throws in a third rear head restraint. Also popular are the Tech Pack, which includes power folding heated mirrors, keyless entry and an alarm. And the Winter Pack, which gives your 500X heat for the front seats and the windscreen wiper area. In addition, there's a leather pack which provides hide not only for the upholstery but also for the door cards to give your 500X an extra touch of class. For urban and city cross buyers, there's also a visibility pack which gives you auto headlamps and wipers, an electrochrome dipping rear view mirror, and if your chosen 500X spec hasn't included it already, dual zone climate control too. If you've gone for urban or city cross spec, you might also want to add in a few of the niceties of top-flight Cross Plus trim, either through paying more for the City Pack, which gives you all-round parking sensors and a rear-view camera, or by adding the LED pack, which gives you full LED headlights and interior ambient lighting. With the low to mid-spec models, you can add in dark tinted rear windows and TomTom navigation to the Uconnect centre dash screen too. With this top Cross Plus variant, there's an optional premium pack that gives you front parking sensors, an electrochromatic dipping rear view mirror and a chromed finish for the side window surrounds and the door sills. Possibly our favourite optional item is the thumping Hi-Fi by Beats sound system, developed in collaboration with the experts from Beats by Dr. Dre. This 8-speaker premium hi-fi setup gives you a 560-watt 8-channel digital amplifier, a 15-litre subwoofer that sits in the cargo bay, a near recording studio sound quality. As for more sensible stuff, well, you might want powered lumbar support for the driver's seat and a smoking kit if you haven't kicked the habit. Adventurous types will also like the idea of the back seat organiser, a soft, removable cooler bag that straps onto the backs of the front seats. On to aesthetics, which have always been a key area for buyers of any kind of 500 series model. This time with this car, there are no fewer than 14 different bodywork colours, and in perusing these, most buyers will want to look beyond the 4 straightforward pastel shades on offer and pay extra to get themselves one of the 6 metallic colours. We've got techno green here. If you're happy to pay even more, there are also some more exclusive shades as well. 2 tri-coat finishes and 2 matte metallic ones. Once you've sorted that out, you can have the dashboard finished in the colour you've chosen and then perhaps go on to consider one of the bespoke interiors. City Cross buyers can have the top part of the front seats finished in a light, contrasting shade of ivory. With this top Cross Plus trim, the front seat piping and the stitched 500 logo can be completed in either copper or grey. Or, if you've really splashed out and gone for that leather pack we mentioned earlier, there's a choice of black or brown upholstery with ivory piping. In short, choose carefully, and if you've got the right kind of budget, your 500X can be made to feel very special indeed. What else? Well, if you've got a plusher model with roof rails and skid plates, you can get both these items with the special ice mirror finish that features here. Want to go further? Then Fiat's accessory arm Mopar can help. They offer 4 key styling packs for the 500X. There's the Chrome Pack Light, which chromes the mirror caps and the side finishes, or the Chrome Pack Full, which includes the same shiny finishing for those 2 areas, plus also for the bonnet line. Don't like chrome? No problem. There's also red and white extra packs which colour the mirror caps and the side finishes. If you want more exterior and interior embellishment, Mopar offers plenty else for 500X folk. You can add stripes and decals for the bonnet, the side panels and the roof. Plus, there's a door sill guard that projects the 500 logo onto the ground at night. And there's a range of bespoke coloured key covers too. What about practicalities? Well, as we always say in these reviews, it's pretty important to pay extra for a spare wheel, if rather meanly, as in this case, one isn't included as standard. A full-sized spare is available at extra cost right across the range, or as an alternative, provided you select one of the Firefly-engined 1 litre or 1.3 litre variants, you could choose a space-saver spare instead. Fiat additionally insists you must pay extra for a hook in the boot and a USB port for second-row passengers. If you want to go further with practical stuff, here again Mopar can assist you. Their extensive range of extras allows you to add in protectors for the front seat backs or a protector for the whole of the rear seats should you happen to have unruly pets or unruly children. Or you could clip on either a tablet holder or a coat hanger to the backs of the front seat headrests. To organise the boot area, you can add in a luggage net or floor rails to which telescopic arms can be clipped, or in sorting out the luggage area of your 500X, you might prefer to go for a moulded cargo area tray, a dog guard, or one of the various cargo tote bags on offer. As you'd expect, you can specify a tow bar, including one of the removable kind. And of course, there are optional roof crossbars to which can be clipped attachments not only for the usual bicycles, skis and roof boxes, but also for kayaks, windsurfers, surfboards, a roof cargo basket and a roof transport bag. On to safety. Now, Fiat needed to upgrade this model's camera-driven safety tech, and has done. All models now get traffic sign recognition, which identifies speed signs as you pass and displays them on the dash. You then have the option of using an intelligent speed assist feature that, with a tap of a steering wheel button, will set your speed to meet the limit you've just passed. For the highway, there's also a standard lane assist package that not only warns you when you veer over lane delineating lines, but also gently steers you back to where you ought to be. Autonomous braking isn't standard across the range, which is one reason why the Euro NCAP testing programme continues to rate this as a 4-star rather than a 5-star model. But you do get it included, provided you avoid entry-level trim. Fiat calls its autonomous braking system City Brake Control, and it works as most of these systems tend to do, functioning at speeds of between 4 and 120 miles an hour to scan the road ahead for potential accident hazards as you drive. If once detected, you'll be warned. If you don't respond or aren't able to, then the car will automatically brake itself, decreasing the severity of any resulting accident. On City Cross and Cross Plus models, there's also an active safety pack that gives you blind spot detection too, which alerts you if you're just about to pull out and there's a vehicle in your blind spot. Another option is adaptive cruise control, which can automatically regulate your speed to the vehicle ahead at highway speeds. In addition to the camera safety tech, all models get the expected things: ISOFIX child seat fastenings, tyre pressure monitoring, an energy-absorbing steering column, hill start assist to stop you drifting backwards on uphill junctions, and twin front, side and curtain airbags. To try and make sure those bags won't be needed, there's plenty of electronic assistance. ESC stability control and electronic roll mitigation, of course, plus all-speed traction control and a brake traction control system to offer extra grip on start-off or through the bends. The ABS braking system features panic brake assist and ready alert braking to quicken emergency stops. And there's a DST, or driving steering torque system, to counter scary oversteer on low-grip surfaces. What else? Well, we don't expect that too many 500X buyers will be doing any serious towing, but for those that are, there's a trailer sway control feature built into the stability system. Finally, we'll give a mention to the new full LED headlights that feature as standard on Cross Plus variants like this one. These have more powerful beams that reduce eye fatigue at night by a significant amount. Fiat reckons that at a speed of 56 miles an hour, obstacles can be spotted up to 4 seconds sooner, which is a distance of 100 metres than is possible with the standard halogen units. The 500X may share some of its styling DNA with its city car stablemate, but of course its running cost returns are very different, as you'd expect they would be given that this small SUV lugs around an extra half a tonne of weight. In this crossover's original form, that wasn't helped by a range of petrol engines that were well past their sell-by date. Even back in 2015, the 1.6-litre e-torque and the 1.4-litre multi-air 2 units then on offer looked thirsty, dirty and breathless in comparison to the new era 3-cylinder 1-litre turbo power plants used by obvious rivals. As we've been saying throughout this review, Fiat now has one of those, and you'll know if you've already viewed our driving experience section, we've been trying it here. The improvement this power plant's brought about over what was offered before is easy to verify because the Italian brand still feels the need to offer the old 1.6-litre e-Tour unit in the entry-level urban model that lies at the foot of the range. We'll give you figures based on readings calculated using the latest WLTP, or World Harmonised Light Vehicle Test Procedure cycle, but the stats have been converted back to the most recent New European Driving Cycle, or NEDC2 spec, since that's what a lot of rival models are still using. If your 500X has been fitted with that 1.6-litre e-torque engine, it's rated at a very unremarkable 42.2 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 154 grams per kilometre of CO2. With the 1-litre turbo engine we're trying here, those readings can improve to as much as 48.7 mpg and up to 133 grams per kilometre. If you stretch further up the range to the 1.3-litre turbo automatic model, you're looking at up to 45.6 mpg and up to 140 grams per kilometre of CO2. The two new turbo petrol Firefly series power plants comply with Euro 6D standards, include GPF or gasoline particulate filters, and feature all aluminium construction that makes them impressively light. This car's 1-litre unit, for instance, tips the scales at just 93 kilos. They use the Fiat Group's multi-air technology in its third-generation form, which improves combustion efficiency by adjusting valve lift and timing. Other Firefly series engineering focus points include reduced internal friction, a lower compression ratio, and a very compact combustion chamber to benefit thermal efficiency. Fiat has built on this engineering efficiency by also incorporating into this car things like optimised aerodynamics, electric power steering, and detailed touches like the lightweight aluminium wheels. Plus, of course, there's the usual engine stop-start system, which is now also fitted to the base, normally aspirated e-torque unit, allowing it to also meet the upgraded Euro 6D pollution reduction standard. Of course, the ultimate figures you achieve will depend very much on how you drive, something you can optimise if you make use of the Eco Drive section of the infotainment system's Uconnect live screen, which monitors your driving in real time via 4 parameters: acceleration, deceleration, shifting gears and speed variation. There's a little leafy tree graphic and a continually updated current trip index score to show you how effective your efforts towards frugality have been. Fiat says it's a bit like having a personal trainer on board. Used properly, Fiat reckons that using EcoDrive Live proactively could improve this 500X model's efficiency returns by up to 16%, although it's difficult to understand how they could accurately have arrived at that figure. There's also the opportunity to share your eco-driving performance figures on the Uconnect website, so you can see how you stack up against other 500X drivers. If you buy this car and actually do that, we'd suggest that you really need to get out a bit more. What else might you need to know? Well, it's disappointing that Fiat hasn't offered the lead of its brand partner Jeep in offering a 5-year warranty on its cars. Here you get 3 years, but at least it's an unlimited mileage package, free of the 60,000 mile limit that applies to some rivals. You can extend it to 5 years at extra cost. Plus, there's 36 months of breakdown cover included as well. Should you have a problem on a journey, you can use the Uconnect infotainment system to contact roadside assistance, and the same setup can also be used to book routine services too. Ah yes, maintenance. Service intervals are 9,000 miles or every 12 months, whichever comes first, and that servicing needn't be too costly as Fiat parts are relatively cheap. A range of Mopar Easy Care maintenance plans allows you to budget ahead for servicing costs for up to 5 years. As for residual values, well, industry experts Cap HPI reckon that after the standard 3-year or 60,000 mile period, a volume 500X 1-litre City Cross 120 HP variant would still be worth 35% of its original purchase price, assuming you don't go too mad on the options lists. That's a reasonable showing by class standards. On to insurance groups, which start at Group 8 for the entry-level 1.6 e-torque urban model. For this 1-litre engine, you're looking at Group 10 for the City Cross variant and Group 12 for this Cross Plus version. For the 1.3-litre model, it's Group 14 for the City Cross variant and Group 16 for the Cross Plus variant. Though this 500X draws upon the heritage and history of Fiat's 500 model line, it doesn't depend on it in the way that previous spin-off models have done. Even if you had no idea what the original 500 was, you might well enjoy this car. It looks good, it's easy to drive, is nicely equipped, and is anything but boring. And in this revised form, it can at last offer some decently class-competitive petrol engines that deliver reasonably efficient running costs too. Of course, these attributes are hardly unique in the Duke and Captur-dominated small SUV sector. What is unusual in this segment is to have combined these virtues with an authentic sense of retro style that comes with a modern twist, like Fiat's 500 City car, but unlike the brand's 500L MPV, this model's greatest selling point lies in the way it looks. Which of course is crucial, given that, according to this Italian brand, over 60% of buyers in this class care more about style than anything else. Even if your priorities from a car of this kind are a little broader than that, if you don't like the look of this 500X, then you probably won't buy it. Still, we think you will, and if so, what we've learned here is that there are now other reasons why you might want one. A very complete level of infotainment, for instance, decent standards of camera-driven safety, and from the 1-litre Firefly series engine, most will choose peppy performance too. On top of that, you can personalise this car inside and out to a much greater extent than is possible with most of its rivals, which will matter to many potential buyers. Will these people care that this 500X isn't particularly interesting to drive? That it's now become one of the pricier offerings in the segment? And that some rivals can offer a little more interior space? Possibly not. After all, you can forgive this car much for the way a carefully specified version will make you feel, and the way that such a car will look in your driveway, or outside the gym, or parked next to the line of more boring-looking little SUVs that populate the school run. In short, this remains a contender you can't ignore if you're charmed by the Duke genre. It has the X factor, and for that, continues to deserve a prominent place on your shortlist of small SUVs.